The court, please, Manot. You can continue. When we, just before you adjourned, you mentioned that you were taken to a room and asked to draw an ID kit of the intruders. What happened?
Ushilo ukuthi wasuthatha usuka kule room ke la uyosiza ngokudweba kwase kwenzekanike.
Nami ngafike ke ngathola ukuthi vele khona bese befikile phambi kwami ukuqala ukudweba, and then nami ngafike ngakufaka ama parts la engangakukhumbula kahle futhi.
I then went in, and then I could see that there were those that went into that room to draw before me. So I also inserted or included certain features, or the witness referred to as parts, that I could record.
Yes. And this was an identity kit of which suspect?
La lokudweba lokhu ke bekudweba isithombe samuphi umsolwa.
Ngenza kulo wamadress wayifake isigqoko, and then ngase ngiphinda futhi ngongeza kulona wesibili owayifake ihood.
The one with the dreadlocks that was wearing a hat, I also added to the one, the second one that was wearing a hoodie.
Now, can you just elaborate? If you say the second one was wearing a hoodie, when did you see that?
Uma ungachaza ke uma uthi owesibili owayifake ihoodie wakubona nini lokho?
Ngakubona mabengena endlini mabeqeda ukulandelana nje befika lapha dining room past chin.
I saw it when they entered the house, just as they were following each other and getting into the dining room, the passage.
Can you just give a detailed description of the suspects?
Lo qala ke waye engemude kakhulu wayiphathi nendawo nje.
The first one wasn't that tall. He was just in the middle. He wasn't that tall.
Yes.
Enamadress efika nje khona la ngasentameni.
He had dreadlocks that his dreadlocks was up to here, to his neck.
Yes.
And then wayifake isigqoko sona lesi bengisikhomba lapha esithombeni.
He was wearing a hat, the one that I pointed out on the photo.
Yes.
Wayenamehlo amakhulu aphumele ngaphandle.
He had big eyes, and they were protruding to the outside.
Yes.
And then bese even ama facial contours engazuthi amathambo akhe ayavela.
He also had facial contours. It was like his bones were appearing, were appearing. Yes. Should I say that the bones were visible? Visible. That's the correct word.
Yes.
Yes.
And then bese wayenesikhumba esicwebezelayo.
He had also a shiny skin.
Yes.
And then bese kuthi lo wesibili
Can I give you a description of the second one?
Come on.
Lo wesibili wayemude.
The second one was tall.
Yes.
eslim ngomzimba,
slim in body,
egqoke ihoodie,
he was wearing a hoodie,
Yes.
and then enentshebe ekekelezela kanje.
he had a beard that goes like this, it's not showing right around. Sort of a-
Yes.
Yebo.
Ibona yonke okhumbulayo.
That's what I can recall.
Now, you testify that when you were requested to assist in drawing the identikit, you added features of the first suspect. What did you add?
Ushilo-ke uma ucelwa-ke ukuthi ulekelele ekudwebeni wase ufaka uthe wena ama-parts ne? Yini owayifaka owayongeza?
Ngafika mina ngafaka kulowo kuqala, ngafaka amehlo,
To the first one I added eyes,
and then ngafike ngalungisa amashiya,
Eyes, if you say eyes, what do you mean?
uma uthi
amehlo la amakhulu ayephumele ngaphandle.
the big eyes that were protruding.
Yes.
Ngase ngiya-eda isikhumba sakhe esicwebezelayo,
I added his shiny skin. And just before you asked the question, I think you said that I also fixed the lashes. Ushilo ngithi?
neheshi, the eyebrows.
Sorry. The eyebrows, yes.
Of its suspect?
Our
Lo kuqala.
the first one.
Yes.
Yebo.
And then nesigqoko,
The hair as well as the head.
oh nama-contours.
As well as the contours.
And can you just explain if you say contours? What do you mean?
Kusuke kuamathambo yabona ubuso bomuntu makuvela iqhomo kanje, iqhomo zi-visible, nala futhi ijawline nayo ibonakala.
It is when you are able to see in the person's face that the bones are visible, as well as here on the jaws that you are also able to see. Witness pointing to the jaws.
Sorry, just for my understanding. You say that the bones, what do you mean? The cheekbones? Oh, the forehead?
Okay.
What do you mean?
Uma ukhuluma ngeiqhomo ukhuluma noma ukuthi noma uthi amathambo ukhuluma ngawaphi ubuza ukuthi ukhuluma ngesiphongo noma ukhuluma ngawaphi?
Ngikhuluma ngeiqhomo ne-jawline konke nesiphongo bekuvela ku-distinctive.
Ngizokubuza ke because basho iqhomo ama-cheekbones. Okay, referring to the cheekbones, the jaws, as well as the forehead, all of that was visible.
Yes, you may proceed.
And then kwase kuthi kulo wesibili ngachaza ukuthi wayemude, and then wayinentshebe.
On the second one, I then mentioned that he was tall, he had a beard,
And then ngase ngafika nga-eda nebala lakhe.
I also added his complexion.
Yes, what about his complexion?
Wayengemhlophe, wayengemnyama.
He wasn't light in complexion, he wasn't dark.
Yes. Yes.
Yebo.
Ilokho ke.
It's that.
Yes. Yes, and what happened thereafter?
Kwase kuthini ke noma kwenzekani ke emuva kwalokho?
And then ke masuka lapho base bethi sizodingeka ukuthi basithathe i-DNA.
And then from there, they informed us that they would then have to take our DNA.
Yes. For what purpose?
Isizathu.
Bathe bafuna ukuhlukanisa phakathi kwabantu laba bangena nathi besisendlini.
They said that it was for eliminations to differentiate between us, or elimination between us as well as the intruders.
Yes.
Yebo.
Base besithatha nama fingerprints futhi.
They also took our fingerprints.
Yes, may continue.
And then ke kwase ngalelo langa I think kwase kuphelela lapho.
I think that was it for that day.
Yes. What happened on subsequent days? That was
Kumalanga
on
ke-
the Monday. What happened on
And-
subsequent days?
kumalanga alandelayo kwase kwenzekani ke?
And then ke sabuyela ekhaya amaphoyisa ayilokhu efika ezosi-update esi-check-a ukuthi si-right na besitshela nokuthi basabhizi nasendlini bayacwaninga.
The police then kept on coming to update us and also to check on our well-being. They were also informing us they were still also busy at the house just now with their investigations.
Yes.
And then emva kwamalanga ambadlwana baphinde basilanda bathi khona abantu abababambile kumele sizoba identify.
After a few days, they came to fetch us and informed us that there were people that they had arrested and that we should come and identify.
Do you remember on which day it was?
Usakhumbula ilanga ukuthi ngaliphi ilanga?
Hey angisakhumbuli kahle mhlambe kulesithathu lesine lapho khona kulolo viki.
I can't remember well, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, during that week.
Yes, you may proceed.
And then ke masifika khona lapho bathi singene one by one sizobheka ukuthi khona yini sibabonayo.
When we arrived there, they informed us that we would go one person at a time to see whether there was anyone or any that we could see.
Just a minute. And where was this?
Kwakukuphi? Noma kwakwenzeka kuphi?
Hey angisakhumbuli kahle kodwa kwakuse Johannesburg etown.
I can't remember well, but in Johannesburg, in town.
what type of place?
Indawo ekanjani?
Kwakuyi-police station.
It was a police station.
And who were present on that day?
Obani ababekhona ngalelo langa?
Umuntu esasihamba naye kwakuma, kuyimina, kuKelly, kuTumelo,
My mother, myself, Kelly, Tumelo,
ne-family friend.
and a family friend.
Who's that?
Ubani loyo?
uNox.
Knox.
And before you attended the parade, where were you kept? In which room were you before you attended the parade?
Ngaphambilini kokuthi uyongena kuleliya gumbi la uyokhomba khona ke nanigcinwe kuphi noma nanihleliswe kuphi?
Khona nje iroom elaliney'hlalo, angilazi ukuthi balisebenziselani, but laliney'hlalo nje safike sahlala khona.
There was a room with chairs in it. I don't know what the room is being used for, but we got there and were made to sit in that room.
Now, from where you were seated in that room, could you see the venue where the parade was held?
Kulelo room lelo enanihlezi kulona ke nanibona la iparade ebanjelwe khona?
Cha.
No.
Yes, you may proceed. You say it was explained to you that you must go one by one,
Eh,
or one person at a time, to see if there's anyone that we can identify. Is that correct?
wathi u-officer loyo usho okubonayo.
The officer said, say what you see.
Yes.
And then mengibuka ke lapha eglassini kwakukhona owayelaphayana owayecisha afane nalo wama-dreads.
And when I looked through the glass, there was this one that almost resembled the one of the with the dreadlocks.
But when you go there to the venue where the identity parade was held, was he explained to you what you need to do?
Uma usufika lapho ke kwigumbi lelo la iparade ebanjelwe khona ingaba wachazelwa yini ukuthi yini ekufanele uyenze?
Wathi nje uMr Officer loyo shono okubonayo.
The officer only said, just say what you see.
Yes.
And then mase ngifika mina laphayana ngase ngiyasho ukuthi lo ngimbona laphayana unawo yeba ama-dreads, unawo ama-contours engiwabone kuloyana kodwa kusuyena.
What I then said upon arrival there, that the one that I'm seeing there, yes, he's got dreadlocks, yes, he does have the contours, but it's not him.
Yes.
Yep.
And then ke ngase ngiyaphuma noma ngiphuma nje ngabona ukuthi kulaba ababambe laphayana cha kwakungekho impela ngoba into noma uphuma yahamba emqondweni.
And as I went out, it was just ringing to me, but the ones that they had arrested there are not them, because even if you go out, but the thing just plays in your mind.
Yes. Can you just perhaps maybe clarify the quote? Did you point out any person or you just said the words?
Ingabe awuchazeleke enkantolo ukhona yini owamkhomba noma washo lokhu oqeda ukusho ukuthi wakusho ku-office?
Ngacela mina ukuthi bambize asondele khona ngizobuka kahle eduzane ngoba babebekwele kude.
I requested that the person be brought much closer so I'd be able to see because they were far.
Yes.
Ngase ngiyabheka ke ngabona ukuthi khona ucisha fane kodwa kusuka.
I then looked and could see that it looks almost looks like him, but it's not him.
Yes.
And then again nami ngase ngidedela abanye ukuthi bangene nabo babheke.
It was then time for me to allow the others to go in and also have a look.
Was there a way that you could identify the people who were there in the parade? For instance, were there any numbers that you could use to identify them?
Ingaba ayekhona yini amanamba ababe nawo owawungawasebenzisa ukuthi ukhombe ukuthi sengibe unumber bani.
Ayekhona amanamba.
Yes, there were.
Ngabiza number 2.
Yes, there were numbers. I mentioned number 2.
And just for the record purposes, number 2 as being which person?
Wawuthi uma ubiza unumber 2 umchaza nanjengawuphi umuntu?
Unumber 2 ngangimqhathanisa nalo ama-dreads wayengena ekuqala endlini.
I was comparing number 2 to number 2 to the person that with the dreadlocks that was the first one to enter the house.
Were there other persons on the parade as well?
Babekhona nabanye abantu kwi-parade leyo?
Babekhona.
Yes, there were.
Are you able to say more or less how many people were there
Ungasho ukuthi kwakuwabantu
participating
abangaki
in the parade?
ababekhona kuleya parade ukuthi babe bangaki?
Hayi angisayikhumbuli number exactly kodwa babekhona babebaningana.
I can't remember the exact number, but they were there. There were quite a few.
Yes, you may proceed.
And
What
then
happened thereafter?
and then ke emva kwalapho sase siphuma ke sekuthiwa sesingakhululeka sekhaya.
From there, we were then we went out, and then we were told we could now go home.
Now, after attending the identification parade, were there other people who still had to attend the identification parade that you came with?
Emuva kokuthi ungenileke wena babekhona abanye abawuze nabo kwakufanele ukuthi bangene kwi-parade?
Yebo njalo.
Yes, that's correct.
Did you in any way communicate with those persons
Ingabe wakhuluma
after
yini
attending the parade?
after?
Yes.
Emuva kokuthi nileke kwi-parade ngabe wakhulumisana noma wakhuluma yini nalabo bantu?
Mase siqedile sesibuyele ekhaya sabuzana nje ukuthi wena ukhona umbonile wonke umuntu wathi cha.
On our way back home, we just asked each other, did you see anyone? And then we all said no.
Yes. But what I mean is, as you were leaving the room, where were you taken to after attending the parade?
Asithi ke ungenile wena uzongena emunye umva kwakho. Uma uphuma ke erumini wena ke bakuthathe bakumikisa kuphi uma uphuma uqeda nje ukuthi uyobheka lapha eParade bakuthathe bakusa kuphi?
Bangikhiphela I think ngaphandle noma towards ngaphandle kodwa angizange ngiphinde ngibuyele kuleli room leli ebesihleli
I
kulona.
think they took me outside, but towards the outside, but I was not taken back to the same room where I was seated.
Did you make any contact with the persons who still had to attend the parade?
Laba ababekusafanele baye bona wakhulumisana nabo emuva kokuthi wena usungenile?
Cha.
No.
Yes, what happened then after the parade?
Emuva kweparade kwasekwenzekani ke?
Hayi ke sase siyahamba siye ekhaya and then I think emva kwesikhashana noma amaviki noma inyanga angisakhumbuli kahle kodwa kwase kubizwa futhi mina noLongwe kwathiwa siyacelwa ukuthi siye namaphoyisa epolice station.
I think after some weeks or a month or months, they then requested myself and Longwe to go with the police to the police station.
Yes. Do you remember more or less which month?
Usayikhumbula inyanga ukuthi kwakuyiphi?
Cha angisakhumbuli kahle.
No, I can't remember well.
Yes.
And then
And you say police station, which police station are you referring to?
Kwakuyiphi police station abanicela ukuthi niye kuyona namaphoyisa?
ngabona nje drive isikhathi eside siza ngakhona la ePitori eTang.
I just noticed that we drove for a long time and they were driving towards the Pretoria here in town.
Yes.
Yebo.
And then mase sifika khona kwathiwa singene kwelinye room nakhona futhi basihlohla ngemibuzo uLongwe kwelinye nami ngikwelinye.
Upon arrival there, we were then asked questions or interrogated, and Longwe was in a separate room and then I was in another room.
Yes.
Yebo.
And then ke kwase kuthiwa bazocela amafoni ethu futhi okwesibili bazowabuyisa.
They then said that they would request our phones for the second time, they would bring them back.
No. If you say for the second time where they previously requested,
Yeah.
Yes.
when was that?
Kwakunini.
Ngelanga lama statement bafike bathatha amafoni.
On the day of the statements, they took our phones.
Did they explain as to why they were taking your phones?
Ngaba banichazela yini isizathu sokuthi bathathe amafoni eni?
Cha hayi kangakanani bathe nje bafuna imininingwane ophakathi emafonini ethu.
No, not in much detail. They just said that they needed some information contained in our phones.
Yes. Can you proceed?
And then ke bawathatha and then sahlukana kanjalo saya ekhaya.
They took the phones and then that's how we separated and we went home.
Yes.
And then ke kwathi ngo 2018 ngo February
Then in February of 2018,
sase siyabizwa futhi ukuthi sizokwenza ama additional statements.
we were then called again to come and make additional statements.
Where were you called?
Nibizelwa kuphi?
Sasibizelwa Force Lawrence Police Station.
To Force Lawrence Police Station.
Yes.
Yebo.
and then safika khona safakwa futhi ema-roomini ahlukahlukene.
On arrival there, we were placed in different or separate rooms.
It was yourself and who?
Kwakuwena nobani?
Kwakuyimina, uma noKelly, and then kwathiwa abanye bayeza or abanye bakhona.
Myself, Kelly, my mother, and then we were informed that the others were coming or they were there.
Yes.
And then erumini nganginabantu besilisa amaphoyisa awu 4 or 5 noyedwa wesifazane.
In the room, I was with 4 or 5 male police officers and 1 female.
Did I hear correctly? Mr. Interpreter, I was with 4 or 5 police,
The witness said yes, 4 or 5 male police officers and 1 female, my lord.
meaning herself, in other words. Okay, I hear you. So there were 2 females.
2 females.
Okay.
Yes. You may proceed.
That's not correct.
And then ke lapho safika ntambamanyana nje, and then sasesihlohlwa ke imibuzo from ngaleso sikhathi kwaze kwashaya u9 ebusuku.
There we arrived a bit late and we were interrogated up until around 9 in the evening.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then ke emveni kwalapho kwasethiwa hayi ke sesingahamba sekhaya.
From there we were then told to go home.
Was a statement taken from you?
Sikhona statement esathathwa?
Yebo,
Yes.
sikhona statement esathathwa mina.
Yes, a statement was taken from me.
Yes. Do you know the female police officer who was present there?
Lo umuntu esifazane yena oyiphoyisa uyamazi lo wayekhona?
Cha ngimazi.
No, I don't.
Yes. Okay, you may continue.
And then ke kwasekuhamba futhi esinye isikhathi eside sasesiphinde siyabizwa ke for i-lie detector test.
And then after a long time, we were then called again for a lie detector test.
Yes.
Yebo.
And then
When was that more or less?
Kwakunini?
hey angisakhumbuli kahle.
So which
I
year?
can't remember well. Unyaka?
Maybe 2018, 2019 khona lapho nje kodwa
Maybe 2018, 2019, around
or
nje,
even
but
17
Okay.
angisakhumbuli kahle.
or even 2017, I can't remember well.
Yes.
Saya ke kulelo gumbi kwakuyimina ngedwa no baba nje umlungu omude nomzimba.
In that room, it was myself and a white gentleman who was huge in build.
Yes.
Yep.
Wayesengifasa ke ngentambo lezi zakhona, and then wayesengibuza imibuzo.
He then tied me with the ropes and asked me questions.
Yes.
Yebo.
And then ngaqeda ke futhi akazange asho lutho oluningi, wayesethi hayi Miss Khumalo usungahamba.
I then finished, and then he didn't say much, and then said, "Miss Khumalo, you can now go."
We perhaps inform what the outcome of that lie detector test was.
Ingabe waziswa yini noma watshelwa yini ukuthi imiphumela yaleyo lie detector test?
Cha.
No.
Yes, you may proceed.
And then nakhona futhi kwaphinde kuhamba esinye isikhathi, I think kwakuwumunye unyaka futhi lapho sasesibizwa futhi kuthiwa sizo role player.
And again, some time went, I think it was another year, and then we were called again to come and do what they said was to come and role play.
Yes, can you explain to the court what that is? Role playing?
Ungachazela inkantolo ukuthi kuyini ke lokho uku-role player.
Sabizwa ekhaya Sobriety la kwenzeka khona isigameko, and then lapho ngafica mina kunabantu.
Okay, asibambe lapho. We were called to my home in Sobriety where the incident happened, and when I arrived there were people. Okay.
Yes, you may proceed.
And then ke umani uKelly balinda kwamaphiri, and then ngangena mina, and then mangifika phakathi, and then u-officer lo wayekhona lapho wayesethi kulabantu abakhona la aze nabo kumele ngisho ukuthi mhlambe lo ngimbona as uSenzo, lo ngimbona as the intruder noma.
All right. When we got there, my mother and Kelly waited at Mapiri's house. I then went in. The officer there then informed me that the people that were there that he came with, I should then tell that this one is Senzo, or I see this one as Senzo, or I see this one as the intruder.
And then banikeze nje ama-character of abantu ababekhona.
And just give them the characters of the people that were present.
And then ke bese singena endlini khona kokukhona nezinto ekuthiwa ama-props njengesigqoko into kanjalo.
And then we went into the house. There were things that referred to as props, like a hat, things like that.
Yes.
Okay.
And then ke bese kwasekuthiwa singena endlini bese uyasho ukuthi mina ngangimila ubani emila ama-intruders angena agcina la into ezikanjalo.
We then went into the house, and then I was then expected to say that I was standing here, so and so was standing here, and then the intruders came in, and then they went into the house up to where.
Yes.
And then ke ngenza njalo ke ngaqeda kase ngibuyela endlini kwase kulandela umuntu.
That's what I did, and then I finished, went back to the house, and then next person followed.
Yes, if you say you went to the house, which one?
Indlu kaMaphiri.
Mapiri's house.
Yes, you may proceed.
And then ke sathi mase siqedile ke sabuyela ekhaya.
And then when we were done, we went back home.
Yes.
That's it.
Were there any other developments regarding this matter?
Ngaba khona okunye okwenzeka ke noma kwakhona mayelana nalecala le.
Ekuqaleni babesitshela ukuthi kwenzakalani, and then kwaya kuphela nje azange basasicontacta ngazi noma yimina ngoba bese ngihlala eThekwini.
At first, they kept on updating us as to what was happening, and as time went, it was just quiet. I don't know whether it was me, because I then relocated. I was now staying in Durban.
Do you perhaps know if there was another docket that was opened?
Ingabe uyazi yini ukuthi likhona elinye idokodo elavulwa?
Cha bengizwa nje indabeni kodwa ngikaze ngitshelwe umuntu.
No, I only heard about it on the news, but I was never informed by anyone.
Were there any charges preferred against do you know if there were charges preferred against the persons who were in the house?
Ingabe uyazi yini ukuthi akhona amacala athweswa labo ababephakathi endlini?
Hayi angazi.
No, I don't know.
But that question is not clear. Mr. Baloyi,
That's good.
I say that question is
I'll
not
try.
clear.
I'll try
That is double saying.
I'll
Just
there's a good-
clarify it, because I can just inform people who are listening. She was also in the house when the people got in. She was also in the house before the intruders got in. So it's got to specify.
That's a good.
Okay.
As far as you are concerned, were there any charges preferred against you?
Ngokwakho kwazi noma ngolwakho lwazi onalo, akhona amacala wena owawathweswa?
Cha wekho.
No, none.
Do you know if there was any documentary made of the incident?
Ingabe uyazi yini ukuthi khona idocumentary eyenziwa ngaso isigameko?
Yebo ngiyazi ukuthi ikhona kodwa ngangengxenye yayo.
Yes, I know that there was a documentary, but I was not a part of it.
Can you just perhaps just elaborate a bit what documentary was it and what was it all about? Who produced the documentary?
Uma ungachaza ke ukuthi kwakuyidocumentary yani lena eyayingani futhi kwakuubani uproducer wayo?
I-documentary kwakuyi-documentary ye-Netflix eyayenziwe ngempilo kaSenzo nokuthi kwenzakalani ngesigameko.
It was a Netflix documentary on Senzo's life and as to what happened on the day of the incident.
Ukuthi yayenziwe ubani ke cha angazi.
As to who the producer was, I don't know.
Were you ever approached to participate in the making of this documentary?
Ingabe beza yini kuwena ke bezocela ukuthi ube yingxenye yayo idocumentary leyo?
Beza kaningi futhi kambadlwana.
Yes, they came many times, a few times.
Yes.
Yebo.
Kodwa ngala.
But I refused.
And did you participate in any television interviews
Ingaba wawuyingxenye yini yama interview e-TV
regarding the incident?
mayela nesigameko lesi?
Umsebenzi wami u-entaila ama-interviews. So into engenawo amandla wawo ukuthi phakathi ngibuzwane. Kodwa nakhona ngiyaphendula la ngikwazi ukuphendula khona.
My job entails conducting interviews. But what I don't have control over is what it is that I'm being asked inside there. But I do answer where I can.
And were there any such interviews conducted?
Ingaba akhona yini ama-interview anjalo enziwa?
Akhona.
Yes, they were.
Yes, can you mention them?
Ungawachaza?
Noma ngeze kwakhumbula wonke, but engikhumbulayo khona i-NCA, khona namanye ama-radio interviews.
Although I won't be able to remember them all, there was ENCA, there were some radio interviews.
The ENCA interview, excuse me, do you remember when that took place?
Usayikhumbula le ka-ENCA ukuthi yona yenzeka nini?
Yenzeka last year,
Last year,
lapho June, July somewhere.
June, July around.
Do you perhaps know if the proceedings or the previous proceedings were underway at the time?
Ingabe uyazi yini ukuthi ngaleso sikhathi leso bese qalile ama proceedings la andlule iqala ngamamagama bese iqalile ukuthi liqhube icala ngaleso sikhathi leso?
Icala bese liqalile ngaleso sikhathi.
Yes, the proceedings were underway at the time.
Did the interview perhaps explain to you as to why you had to make an interview when the proceedings were underway?
Ingabe bakuchazela yini ukuthi kwakungani ukuthi wenze i-interview kodwa icala seliqalile enkantolo? No.
Now, you mentioned that there was damage to the kitchen door. Where was the damage?
Ushilo-ke ukuthi istaffa lesa ngasemuva lesa kitchen sasihlahlekile sasihlahleke kuphi nendawo?
Sasihlahleke emveni komnyango.
Behind the door.
I just want to show you photo 19 of Exhibit D. Are you able to use that photo to illustrate your evidence?
Khona la kusemveni komnyango uma uvula umnyango.
This is at the back of the door when you open the door where the witness is pointed.
La kwakume khona ubhuti lo ama-dreads beliswa nesibhamu nosenzo.
This is where the gentleman with the dreadlocks was standing and fighting or wrestling with Senzo about the firearm, for the firearm.
If maybe photo 15 can be shown, photo 15. Are you able perhaps to explain to the court what the respective position was? You mentioned that this is where the intruder with dreadlocks was standing, where the damage to the door is, as well as the deceased, Mr. Meyiwa? Are you able to explain what their respective position was at that point?
The two of them.
Yes. the two.
Ungasho-ke ushilo-ke ukuthi ila lo nama-dreadlocks kanye nayo-ke umufi babekhona, ungasho-ke ukuthi ama-position noma la babebikhona kwakuphi nendawo bona bobabili.
Lo ama-dreadlocks umuva wakhe wawu against isivalo.
Okay.
And then
Sorry, the one with the dreadlocks, his back was against the door. Yebo.
and then usenzo bebhekene kanje, usenzo ebheke isivalo.
And then him and Senzo were facing each other. Senzo was facing the door.
And at what point did you see them in those respective positions?
Ingasiphi-ke isikhathi la ubabona khona-ke bemi ngale ndlela oyichazayo.
Kulesikhathi lapho sibalwisa sikhona lapha ekitchen sibalwisa usenzo eresila naye nesibhamu.
It was at the time when we were fighting them there in the kitchen, and Senzo was wrestling with him for the firearm.
Now, if just for 1 minute, if we can come back to that identification parade that you attended.
Uma nje singabuyela-ke kuleya parade owaya kuyona.
Now, the officer that you referred to, who explained to you what you must do at the parade, did you see if he was taking any notes?
U-officer lo okhuluma ngaye-ke owayekutshela-ke ukuthi kwakuyini-ke ofanele uyenze, ingabe wabona yini ukuthi wayethatha ama-notes?
Cha, angibonanga.
No, I didn't see.
Now, except for this identification parade, did you attend any other identification parade?
Ngaphandle kwalena-ke i-ID parade, ingabe khona yini enye i-ID parade owaya kuyona?
Cha, ayikho.
No, none.
Now, after the suspects in this matter, the accused were arrested, were you afforded any opportunity to identify them?
Emuva kokuthi abasolwa-ke kulecala-ke sebeboshiwe, ingaba likhona yini ithuba owalinikwa-ke ukuthi ubakhombe uba-identify?
Cha, lokho.
No, none.
Do you remember whether you stated in your statements whether you would be in the position to identify them?
Ingabe uyakhumbula yini usho noma uchaza kwistatement owasenza ukuthi ungakhona noma ungakwazi ukuthi ubakhombe?
Yebo ngasho ku statement ukuthi noma ngambona umuntu ngamkhomba.
Yes, I did mention in the statement that if I were to see the person, I would identify.
Is it the person or the persons? Mr. Interpreter.
Abantu.
Person.
Hello?
The question was the person of the statement. That's all. So when uthi abantu noma umuntu.
Ngithe statement ngisambe ngithe abantu mangababona noma bebabili ngakwazi ukubakhomba.
In my statement, my lord, I said that the persons, if I were to see them, I would be identify both of them.
Now, ever since the day of the incident, have you ever seen the people who intruded in the house?
Sukela ngaleli langa-ke lesigameko-ke ingabe wababona futhi noma wabuya babona futhi laba bantu abangena endlini?
ngibone nje la icourt kuphela.
Only here in court.
Yes, can you explain what you mean?
Ungasho ukuthi usho ukuthini? Ungachaza ukuthi usho ukuthini?
Ecourt njengoba ngilana ngibone nangu ubhuti lapha.
As I'm here in court, ungakhomba kanjalo, I saw the gentleman here.
Which one is it?
Umuphi?
From your left is accused 1 up to accused 5.
Uma uqala ngaku left u-accuse 1 kuyo egcineni ke uyo-accuse 5.
Accused 2.
Umsolwa wesibili.
You saw as which person?
Umbone yena nanjengomuphi umuntu?
As suspect number 2.
As suspect number 2.
Yes, can you just if you say suspect number 2, what do you mean?
Suspect number 2 ilo wayefake ihoodie
Suspect number 2 is the one that had a hoodie,
elandela lo wama-dreads.
following the one with the dreadlocks.
Now, are there any specific features that enabled you to say that accused number 2 it's the second person who was in the house?
Sorry. Ingaba akhona ama-features akubange. Sorry my lord. Akubangela ukuthi uthi u-accused number 2 uyena ke lona owayilandela lo onama-threats.
Ngaloluya suku ngoba mangikhuluma earlier ngishilo ukuthi mina noTumelo njengoba ngangithatha icrash sizama ukushaya yena ulantoza accused number 2.
On that day,
Ngambuka kahle.
all right, sorry. On that day, as I explained that I took the crutch and together with Tumelo tried to assault the person. It was him, and I looked at him very well.
And how far were you from him?
Wawukude kangakanani kuyena?
Ikhishi lasekhaya lincane kakhulu.
Our kitchen is very small.
Njengoba ubona ukuthi lapha eseyithombeni ngedlulile istofu siseduze kwesinki nesinki siseduze komnyango so kwakuseduze kakhulu.
As you could see from the previous pictures there, that the stove is close to the sink is closer to the door, so it's very close.
Are there any specific features that enable you to identify him?
Ingaba khona yini ama-features akubangela ukuthi umkhombe noma uthi uyena?
You've already placed the description on the record, but when you see him in court, what reminded you or what enabled you to say he's the person who was in the house on the day?
Ngaphambilini ubusuwachazile ke ama-features, kodwa ke manje uma usumbona ecourt yini lena ekubangela ukuthi uyena lo owambona ngaleli langa?
Ubuso bakhe nje bonke ngiyakukhumbula kahle.
Just his whole face, his whole, I remember well.
Ngisho umzimba
His structure, his body,
ne-height futhi mayisukumemile.
as well as his height when he is standing.
Now, did you know accused number 2 before the incident?
Ngaphambilini kwesigameko ubumazi? No,
Ngiyamazi.
I didn't know him.
You mentioned that you bought some alcoholic refreshments at Kwembi's place. Did you yourself partake in those alcoholic refreshments?
Ubusushilo ke ngaphambili ukuthi nanithenge iphuzo, ingaba wena ke waphuza yini kulezo iphuzo lezo?
Yebo ngaphuza kulezo iphuzo.
Yes, I partook in those beverages.
Yes, what did you drink?
Waphuzani?
Ngangiphuza igwarana
I was drinking guarana.
how many did you drink?
Eyingaki, waphuza eyingaki?
Ngathatha mhlambe 3
I took maybe 3
ngoba sasishare futhi noKelly.
because I was sharing with Kelly.
And what was the state of your sobriety on the day?
Isimo sakho ke masingasebenzisa nje ilanguage yaselokishini, isimo sakho soba sober nje ungathi sasikanjani?
Hayi ngangadakiwe at all.
I wasn't drunk at all.
We just want to show photo 112 of Exhibit D. Can you just explain as to what you see on that photo?
Uchaze ke okubonayo kulesi sithombe,
Kulesithombe nansi igwarane engangiyiphuza.
pointing to the tin, that's the guarana that I was drinking.
And futhi uyayibona ukuthi incanyana ngomzimba kunale Heineken.
And you can even see that it's smaller than the Heineken.
The cell phone that you say the first intruder took, was it ever recovered?
I-cellphone lena othe lona owokuqala owangena wayithatha ingaba yatholakala futhi noma yabuya?
Cha ayizange satholakala kodwa kwakukhona umuntu wayelokhu ecela imali ebantwini wazi wayicela nakumina engisendela pretend ukuba uKelly.
No, it was never recovered, but there was someone who just kept on asking for money. That person went as far as even asking that money from me, pretending to be Kelly.
When did that happen?
Kwenzeka nini lokho?
Kwenzeka khona nje evikini emva kwesigameko.
A week after the incident.
And what model phone was this?
Kwakuyiphi phone?
Kwakuyi iSamsung S4.
Samsung S4.
Do you perhaps know the value thereof?
Uyazi ukuthi kwakuyimalini? No.
And perhaps just lastly, how was the relationship between you and Longwe?
I-relationship phakathi kwakho noLongwe yayinjani?
Sase right kakhulu nanilonke.
It was very good, very good between myself and Longwe.
Those are the only aspects we wanted to take up with the witness. Thank you.
Okay, what's your time now?
It's 19 minutes to 1.
You want us to continue straight or adjourn or what?
I hear my colleague saying we can adjourn at this stage.
And we read? After adjourning, when do we come back?
At 2.
2 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay, we adjourn until 2 p.m.
Sizabuya ke
What about witness?